So my friend and I were sitting here this morning and we were talking about boobs. Now, I don't know. I think to myself, who couldn't love boobs? I think they're pretty great. And it's cultivated into this conversation that's really real right now for our friend Carol. So I'm Tanya. This is my friend Carol. We're with Let's Get Infinite. And Carol is about to undergo some a procedure next week. That's what 28 years or 20 plus years in the making. And so I'm going to hand the floor over because we're talking about boobs today, breasts, and why it might be important for you to listen. Carol.
Yeah, boobs. Oh my God. So it was February 8th, 2001, when I had a breast implant procedure done. Why did I do that? Well, at the time, I was very slender. I had been accused of being a trans man. I had really small breasts anyways, and then after nursing two children, I had even less. So I wasn't feeling really feminine and comfortable in my own body. And it was one comment that somebody really made to me that really got into my head, and I was like, that's it. I just wanna fit in. I never wanted to have these big, gigantic breasts. I just wanted to fit in and look normal, have my body balanced. I mean, Tanya knows I'm really tall, so it just, I had a big booty, but didn't have the big boobies to match the booty. Right, T?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, I mean, it's interesting to go back to Carol and I have known each other since we were 9. So we really did develop hormonally and, through puberty and stuff together. And I too wasn't a fan of my body. So there's definitely been some interesting parallels that Carol and I have, not necessarily identically, but similar in that my worth is tied to how I show up in the world, right? And what at one point in time was a desire for you to change because of all of these things that you've just mentioned, fast forward 24 years later, when all of a sudden it's like, okay, none of those things are important anymore. What's important is that I feel good in my body, get these things out, and then, coming to terms with the fact that potentially some of those things may be associated with some other things that are going on health wise, right? Like when we put something foreign into our body works at potentially rejecting those things. And that's why we're finding ourselves at this point where on January 14th, you're going to undergo a procedure to reverse that thing that happened so many years ago, right?
Yeah,
Good.
it's interesting. I mean, I'm definitely not the same person as I was then, and today I'd like to believe that I'm good with the itty bitty titties. Um, but I mean, the reality of this all has been is there's a lot of volume in here that's not actually mine, and I imagine that I'm probably going to experience some level of grief as they're removed and feel and go, oh, well, it's not there. That fullness isn't there anymore. But what else isn't going to be there is that hardness, is that unnaturalness, the part of me that I've actually been denying for 24 years. In fact, what I thought was actually going to bring me closer to loving my body has been the opposite. And not just in how I feel about it, but I've been letting my body down. See what happens in some women's cases, and I hesitate to say in most cases, like Tanya said, putting a foreign substance in there, the body starts to go, what is this? And it creates like an autoimmune response, and it shows up in a variety of ways with women. It's been dubbed as breast implant illness, BII. And for those of you, I know there's a few people in my own personal circle who have already done the explant, is what they're calling it. Um, the reports are amazing. The people just and how their faces look a couple of days after surgery is just phenomenal. Like there's a big difference that happens. Now, for years, I've been experiencing chronic pain. For years, I've had a rash that doesn't exist. I experience these weird things in my body that when I looked up breast implant illness, it's possible that some of these things can be resolved with just the simple remover of these implants. Now, I have saline implants, but the saline is wrapped in silicone, and silicone over time breaks down in the body, and that is probably not so good for us.
Well, and this idea that at that point in time, did you really fathom and understand the gravity of they have a lifespan?
I did, and I was like, "Pff, whatever. In 10 years from now, I'll just redo them." Well,
Right?
it's been 24 years.
Yeah. And so quite often we might make decisions in that moment that obviously are going to affect us potentially for the entire long term, with the idea that, oh, I'll cross that bridge, I'll, hurdle that burden when it comes later, sometime
Yeah,
later.
later. I'll deal with it later. Manana. That's my motto, manana, right?
And so many others who are watching us, right? Anybody else procrastinate? Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
we're with you. We're with you. But the impact is very real. So you're talking about grief, which is something
Hmm.
really to be expected, but any resentment or anger or any other feelings other than grief that are present that you're aware of right now and what you may forecast may happen as a result of having the procedure done.
Um, I really since I made the decision and said, well, let's back up a little bit before that because this whole thing has been a bit serendipitous. Like this process started just over a year ago where I was actually doing research to try to find the right surgeon. And I found who I believed was the right surgeon. The surgeon who did my procedure was way too expensive to go back to, wasn't an option for me at this time. So I took a look at a couple of different things, and I found this fellow out in Richmond. And from the beginning, the idea of going under again, going under general anesthesia, did not excite me. And I remember thinking, oh, I wonder if I could do this without going under. I actually never researched that. To be honest with you, I didn't even know that was an option. And when I initially met with this surgeon, we had a phone, like a Zoom call, and then I had a follow-up in-person visit. And the in-person visit, he asked me, he's like, well, how would you feel about being the first person that we do this procedure with? Because your situation's very straightforward. It's everything is working in our favor to make this really simple and straightforward. Would you be open to doing this under local anesthesia? And I was like, you just answered the thing that I asked for like a year ago. Yes, let's be trailblazers together. Absolutely, I want to do that. I was really excited about that because I don't think that it's a good idea to go under a general anesthetic unless it's absolutely necessary. If this is not a necessary thing, then let's just skip that step. Um, and and then I start getting into my head about, oh, I don't even like the dentist. What's this gonna be like? Because I can't see what's going on. I like to watch what's going on. Anybody else don't like the dentist because you can't see what's happening? Or just don't like the dentist, period. Uh, Comparing the two things, I have a feeling that I'm not gonna be able to actually watch the whole procedure, and I might not actually want to watch the whole procedure, but I already know that I'm gonna feel pressure and pulling and tension. Like there's going to be some stuff that's gonna happen. There might be some smells that are gonna go on. Um, the sounds, the doctors talking to each other because this is their first time, so they're going to have their own process for everything, and they're experienced plastic surgeons. There's no concern on my part at all about whether or not they're going to be able to do this. It's just the getting into my head. It's like knowing I have to have a tooth pulled, like just that anticipation of I don't actually know what's going to happen. I don't have a mental forecast of exactly how this is going to play out.
Well, and isn't it interesting because this, we're talking about breasts and implants and procedures around breasts today, but that could, insert other subject matter here, right? So
Insert other subject matter, exactly.
the not knowingness sometimes can provoke for me into a bit of a frenzy, right? So I get into my head and I start forecasting what if, scenarios, and then I'm not actually in this moment. So one of the things that you agreed to do this for was to document this and really speak to the truth of and in a vulnerable way about your experience around this so that you may help others understand that they're not alone, right? Because I think when we can create sameness and the ability to talk about, you know, breasts easily instead of being, oh, this is subject matter that we can't talk about, we're kind of opening up the conversation. So we would love to hear how this may have impacted you. Do you have this experience yourself? Do you know somebody that's gone through this experience? Now, we're familiar with someone who just had an explant that it didn't go well.
Hmm.
And it was general anesthesia or general anesthesia, and it didn't go according to plan. And so
Hmm.
um that is definitely a possibility for the possibilities that may come. Do you foresee any of that? Do you have any fears around anything going sideways or wrong as it's their first time doing it?
No, 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 no. These folks are absolutely skilled at what they do. The fact that they're doing it locally is just means they have to deal with somebody who's awake. There's really nothing else that changes other than the fact that I'm an awake patient, and I could potentially say something. Um, I might annoy them by asking questions. Maybe I'll make noises. I was thinking about even playing some jokes on them after, the freezing was actually done, and then saying, freaking out, pretending it's not. But then I thought maybe that probably wouldn't bode well for me.
You don't
Um,
hurt them.
but yeah, my little devil self is like, ooh, how can we have fun with this? I'm always thinking that way. But I don't actually anticipate anything. I think that I've walked myself all the way through my recovery, and I really believe that everything is going to be easy. It's going to be straightforward. It's going to be quick. I'm going to be surprised at how good I feel afterwards. I'm going in with a totally positive mental attitude. Mental fitness is something that Tanya, we've been practicing here since, well, for a very long time, but really focused in on our mental fitness since October. We're part of a mental fitness program and an app and coaching. We are part of all of this. We'd love to have you join us because mental fitness is actually probably the biggest key in grounding me into being okay with all of this.
Yeah,
I'm
be
not saying that my heart is not going to be pitter pattering the day of, because it will be. I'm pretty sure that it will be, because I don't know. It's like getting in an airplane and flying and hitting turbulence that feels like I'm dropping forever. There's a sensation there that I'm not comfortable with. And I'm not sure yet how it's going to go, but I'm anticipating really excellent results and with ease and probably with joy. And my body's already responding to my level of acceptance. Like I'm already in process, even though the implants are still in my body right now. Um, I'm feeling there's a shift happening inside my body. My cells they are like on the edge of their seats going, yes, yes,
Well, what did you read this morning? Earlier when we were talking, you said every cell in our body is eavesdropping on our thoughts, right?
absolutely.
And so, we hear these things that become, potentially something that lacks its impact, the true impact, right? Thoughts become things. Okay, well, great. And why is it that I would ever spend any time in a fear-based thought then? What is that?
We do this. That's human nature. And Tanya, we've been exploring this a lot lately.
Mm.
And we have these discussions. Why, when we are actually able to sit back and see this tapestry of magic that is unfolding around us in every single breath, where did my lack of trust ever come into the universe? So this mental fitness that we're doing, folks, is so life-changing. We can't wait to tell you about. That'll be another video. What it's coming, believe me, and we're going to be doing some contests and some giveaways, and it's going to be get excited. Your cells, let them all get on the edge of their seat in anticipation. But really, what we're talking about here, like this is life changing. It was life changing back then, what we're going through. When we make decisions about altering our bodies forever, including things as simple as a tattoo or a piercing or, somebody who does spacers in their ears, like sometimes there's no correction or the correction can be costly, it can be painful, it could be dangerous. There are risks in everything. I'm not denying the fact that there's a possibility or a risk of something going sideways, but I'm not entering it with that kind of state of mind for sure.
Well, and the intention is to restore your body into,
Homeostasis.
right? So I think
Yeah,
that that's an important component, right? And I mean, everybody gets to have a beauty standard and do things the way that they want to, right? But I mean, you were talking about consequences, right? Like weight loss surgery is one of those things that can alter the body that can never go back from
yeah.
before. Right? So I've not had that experience, but I see lots of things that can be derived from that as negative and positive consequences of that, right?
Yes.
So it's all very fascinating. I love, sort of picking it apart. I love being part of the process. Thank you for allowing us a glimpse into your experience of that. We're interested in what you have to say. We want to engage with you. We think there's value in having conversations in community. We invite you. We have Soul Spa. We have the Hero's Journey. We have dancing every day at 6:30 a.m. PST. We offer lots of ways to connect with us, connect in community, and really find meaning and purpose in life. So come and hang with us. Because as dorky as we were in high school, we think we're pretty cool now. So, and I say that with a grain of truth, and yet some levity to the idea that our voices may matter to one of you out there. So we hope and wish you well, and we'll keep
Stay
going.
tuned for the next installment on this journey.
Exactly. Take good care. See you then.